it's me. It's Liz from Old Stables Crafts. I hope you're well today. Let me just check that everything is working okay. So it's just coming up to 3 o'clock in the afternoon UK time. So I'm a little early. Right, sorry, I'm just reading something else. Yes, I am live. Hurrah and la la. All good. So let me just see what's happening. Hello Nora, hello Gwen. Sorry, I was getting distracted. I've got my cup of tea. It's bread and butter pudding tea. And it's lovely. So I hope you're both well. So Gwen's in North Carolina. Nora is in Ireland. Sherry is in Oregon and it's cold. Margaret McFadden! Yay! Haven't seen you for a while. Margaret's up in Scotland. She's one of my team. Jan is one of my team and is about 10 miles from me. Hello, Shaz. It's lovely in South Devon. Is it good? Glad to hear it. Marlene is from Wisconsin. And Lorna, yes, you remembered. I nearly forgot. Lorna is in Chester, I think. Also one of my team. Oh. I made my tea a little while ago and forgot it. And even though it comes, when I make it, I have a lid on it. It's a little bit chilly. Hello, Margaret. So any of you who are customers, your customer packs went in the post yesterday. Whoop, whoop. And if you're on Instagram, I know I keep going on about Instagram, but I'm doing some fun stuff over on Instagram at the moment. On Instagram, I have a reel of posting the parcels, and it's got some quite fun audio to go with it. Hello, Karen from Scotland. And hello, Judith. So lots of you here. Woo! So I'm just going to do a very quick, you know this anyway, but just in case, I am Liz Yuille. I work as Old Stables Crafts. I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator based in the UK, working in the UK, France, Germany, Austria, and the Netherlands. So if you ever want to buy items from Stampin' Up, I would be thrilled if you would choose to shop with me. Link to my online store is in the description bar. And if you would like to join my team, I would be delighted if you would do so. Again, link in the description bar. 10 a.m. in North Carolina, sunny and 70 degrees. Your box arrived 30 minutes ago. Judith, that's amazing. I only posted it late yesterday afternoon, second class. I take them to a post box on a local business park. And I have to say, if I take them there, they tend to arrive very, very quickly. Whereas if I drop them off at the post office or in an ordinary letterbox, they do take 2 or 3 days. But no, the post from the business park goes very quickly. So that's amazing. Wow! I mean, it was nearly 5 o'clock when I dropped them off. Whoa! More tea. Anyway, we're going to be using every chapter. And I'm going to be doing some watercolouring, which I haven't done for a while, so this is going to be interesting. Just saying. Oh. And I'm going to be using the retiring ink colours, whilst I can still use them, because I like them. So I've got Magenta Madness, Bumblebee, Misty Moonlight, Just Jade, and Cinnamon Cider, and I can only just hold them all together. So that's what I'm going to be using. I've got water painters, and I'm going to be going through some hints and tips for water painters because they're a bit odd. Well, in one way, they're a bit odd. I've already stamped because I've used StazOn on watercolour paper, and I will explain that as I go. And I'm apologising now for the fact that I've got messy grid paper because I'm in the middle of prepping catalogue launch. Well, catalogue post out. They hopefully will go out Saturday. I mean, they may go in the post tomorrow, but let's face it, tomorrow in the UK is a bank holiday, so they ain't going anywhere if they go in the post tomorrow. So I'm going to flip the camera down and we can get started. So, okay, so every chapter, it's a single stamp. It's on my Stamparatus at the moment. Let me grab it because to stamp on watercolour paper, because it's got a texture, and because StazOn is quite a dry ink, as in it dries very quickly, so I think consider it a dry ink, you need to stamp it more than once. Now, this one in my left hand, yes, this one in my left hand, this is a full sheet that I've cut in half. This one, I just stamped, and I stamped it about 6 times, to be honest, and really gave my elbow into it. You like those retiring colours, but when everyone sees the new ones, they're going to be very excited. Absolutely. I'm being really rotten at the moment. I'm not showing any new product. Not yet. Maybe after Easter. But at the moment, we've still got annual product and spring, summer mini catalogue product. So this one is just the straight Fluid 100. Stamped about half a dozen times. And as I say, I really gave it my elbow to get a really good impression. This one, I actually ran through my stamping, cut and emboss machine, folded into a piece of just printer paper, and it helps smooth it out a bit. So this one only needed to be stamped about 3 times. There's still a bit of a texture, but it's not as textured. So this is the difference between the two. So they're actually stamped in a very similar result, but this one just took half the time, other than I ran it through my cut and emboss just to smooth it out a bit. But that really helps, and I have still got to do my cleanup on my stamp, but that involves StazOn cleaner and stuff, so it takes a while, which is why I tend not to use StazOn very often, because StazOn's actually not very good for your stamps. Just saying. Oh, and while I remember, if you're enjoying what you see when I eventually get going, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, share the video, and if you don't already subscribe, you can do so by clicking the button in the bottom right hand corner. So let us get started. I'm going to start with the rougher of the two. Now, water painters. They come in a pack of 3. If I can get the lid off all 3, that would be joyous. And they come in a little pack. So you get this one, which is kind of flat, and kind of flat. It's, it's for big areas. You then get a brush tip that is more pointed. So it's what I would, a classic brush tip. And then you get a narrow brush tip. But this one is quite interesting because you can actually take, if it will come, there we go, you can take the cap off and it then becomes a brush tip, but just very big. So rather than being flat, it becomes you can get it to be pointy. If I get a piece of kitchen paper and give this a bit of a squeeze, because I haven't used these for a while. This is going to be interesting because I seriously haven't done any watercolouring for quite some weeks, possibly even months. But yes, so this, if we get water running, you can get it into more of a point. So that's really for larger areas. So I won't be using this one today. So let's pop its little lid back on, or its little collar back on. And you do want to make sure that you put it in, if you take it off, you want it to be a point. Hello, Deborah. You have made it and I am live. Yes. So when you put this piece back on, make sure that this is in a point, because otherwise you could end up with the bristles flicking back into the, and then push it on properly. Yes, you could end up with this with the bristles doing exactly what that did, which is to go backwards, and you really don't want that to happen. So there is a click when it goes on. So that's the brush, the big brush. So we pop that back onto its lid. Now, the other thing, and this is quite confusing, and actually, because I'm going to be using this one most, this is a really good, I can show you. So, a lot of people have been worrying about getting these on and off, because when you unscrew something normally, you would twist the top anti-clockwise, yes, well, that way, and the bottom that way. No, not with these, you do it the other way round, which is a little annoying. So this has got some water in it, but this has got more water in it, so I'm going to take the barrel off that one and pop it onto this one, because you can do that. Now, obviously, to get it back on, you have to do it the other way. Just saying. And it's really confusing. And even though I know I'm supposed to be doing it the other way, my head doesn't want to. It's just, yeah. Anyway, so that's the tip, is you have to unscrew the barrel the wrong way round. And you just fill it with tap water. So, all good. Right, now, watercolouring, I do always make sure I have got an absorbent cloth nearby, because you want to clean your brush, and sometimes you end up with too much water, sometimes you don't end up with enough, etc. Now I need to make sure I'm not in that area. So I am going to pop my stamp case. Let me just check where it is. Right, so if my stamp case goes there, then so long as I don't go there, we'll be in camera. Always good. Right, so we've got an interesting selection of items here. We've got books, obviously, glasses and a teacup. Now, I'm going to start at the top and work down. You had to figure out about the unscrewing the water. Everybody did. It was a bit annoying. Now, these don't flow as quickly as our aqua brushes, water brushes, whatever the previous one was. These are water painters, the other were aqua brushes, that's right. So they don't flow as quickly, which I think is good, because I think you've got more control. The others actually ran too quickly for me. So I'm going to start at the top and work down as much as anything, because then I'm working wet to dry, which means that I'm less likely to upset it. Now I'm going to want a very, very slight wash on the teacup, and I've already got some ink in the lid, so that's good. Now, the key with watercolour is to not colour two things that are next to each other, one after the other, because otherwise they will run. Now, if you are worried about that, you can do heat embossing, which will help a little, but only a little. Now I'm actually just going to grab a scrap of watercolour paper so that I can try my colours out. I've got a piece that was die cut, so I can use that, just so that I've got somewhere to try the intensity of the colour. So I just want a very light wash, that will do, for my teacup. So I'm not going to be making life incredibly difficult for myself by having a really distinct difference in the colour between the teacup and the pattern on the teacup. That really is just, you know, madness. So I get my ink by squeezing the lid onto the ink pad, and I will show you that in a moment. You can use your re-inkers. And please, I haven't checked the inventory status report today. I know some of the re-inkers in Europe were out of stock and are expected back in, I think, later this month. Ooh, that's a bit dark. So if it becomes a bit dark, you can just add a bit more water. I don't really want quite that much water, but you can add water. Let me just get another piece of kitchen paper to just lift that off a bit. So I think it was Misty Moonlight and Cinnamon Cider that were out of stock in Europe for the re-inker, but will be coming back in before the end of the annual catalogue, so before the beginning of May. So if you haven't got your re-inkers yet, please keep an eye on the online store. You can find that by clicking the link below my video. So that's kind of the teacup done. Now I am going to be colouring the pattern on the teacup, and actually that doesn't look too bad, so I think I might be rash and do that now. So I want some of this more intense ink, because I'm just going to go in and do tone on tone, so that it's kind of easier. And I think we don't want anything too drastic. Now if you can't get it off your ink pad, off your lid, you can just go around the edge of your ink pad, but gently. You don't want to dilute your ink pad too much. So just the corner there, you can pick up a little bit of ink. And I'll probably come back in and do some more on that. Now, the glasses. When you look through glasses, you can see what's on the other side, but to distinguish from that, I tend to go really pale, so that it's obviously different. Possibly not quite that pale. That's better. So it looks like you're looking through something. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So that's kind of my bumblebee for the moment. And then to clean off my brush, I may need to bring in another cloth. I just squeeze and clean, really, until it runs clear. In fact, I will bring in let's see, what have we got? You have a microfiber cloth. Don't really like microfiber cloths, but they do their job. Right, so let's close this up and keep it the right way up so that you don't end up with all that water flipping into the ink pad. The glasses, I thought I would go mad and we'll have some magenta madness. Get that? Mad magenta madness. Again, we've got the ink in the lid already, but let me show you how I do that. So close the lid and then really squeeze together, and then you get ink in the lid. If you can't do that, if you haven't got the manual dexterity, you could just use your re-inker, or you can actually use your elbow, but you know, be careful. So this is going to be, yeah, quite bright. So having said you don't want to do colours next to each other, one after the other, it's actually drying really quickly. Don't know why, because it's not that warm today. So I'm going to do the outside frame first, and I've made this into a really small point. So I've been busy this afternoon. I've had a bit of a nightmare actually. I had ordered from Vistaprint, who are normally quite reliable, some of the items that I wanted to put in with my catalogues. However, that was all supposed to arrive yesterday, and yesterday morning, or was it the morning before? Can't remember. I ordered all this on Monday, and it was due to arrive yesterday, Wednesday, because I paid for the rush service. However, I got an email to say that there was a delay with their postal provider, which I thought meant the people that were supposed to be delivering it to me. No. Long story short, although Vistaprint say that they have shipped my items, what they mean is they have printed them and they're currently with their shipping department. But apparently in their view, that means they've already shipped. They haven't left Vistaprint, but they've shipped. Go figure. So I have been running around like a headless chicken, getting things printed here Fortunately, I have an EcoTank printer, which aren't as good as the ones that would have been from Vistaprint, but it would have saved me a job. To be fair, Vistaprint have given me a refund of the cost of the items that I was going to put in the catalogues that I needed this week, as I'm not going to get. Quite encouraging to help me get over my anxiety about watercolouring. First time I tried, didn't turn out so well. I go very dry, Deborah. So we've got very, very bright glasses, and to do the arms that are behind the glass, I'm just thinning it down so that they are not quite as dark. Now, the key with watercolour is that you want to build up your layers. So if your colour isn't dark enough, particularly when you're working on watercolour paper, not when you're working on ordinary cardstock. Just realised my head is almost out of the shot. Apologies. When you're working on watercolour paper, you can go back in and add more colour on top. But basically what you're doing is you're adding liquid. So, but this is very, very dry. I mean, you know, it's not coming off, well, a little bit on my thumb. So let me just clean that off, and then we're going to go into, I'm going to do the pages of all the books next. Now, the tip of your water brush may end up stained. It may not, but it may. It's just a stain. It's no big deal. Stains are just dirt that won't go away. Okay, so cinnamon cider next for my pages. It's almost like I've got these in the right order. It is pure coincidence, let it be said. So the pages of my books are going to be, you know, paper. So I need a light colour, lighter than that, darker than that. So this is all about adding more water, adding more, that's better. It will dry slightly lighter than the colour on the card, but not much. So I'm just coming in and I'm just going over the lines because it stays on, it's not going to smudge. Whereas if we were doing this certainly with any of the classic inks, this would now be a muddy mess. Memento, although it's water resistant, is not waterproof, and as I say, I need to be more aware of, if I'm working over this side of the desk, that my head needs to be more visible. Sorry. What I'm trying to avoid is the camera, which is just here, being in shot, and I think I'm just going to have to accept that the camera is going to have to be in shot. So, nearly done with all the pages. Oh, my husband is currently washing the windows of my studio. I'll rephrase that. He's washing the ones at that end of the room, not that end of the room. We have friends coming over on Sunday for afternoon tea, so he's in a spring clean mood. So that's where we are. So very pale on the books. I will be doing more with cinnamon cider, darker. Hello, Pam. Hello, Carol from Washington State. West Coast. Northwest. So this, I've got quite a lot of ink in the brush. Now, because, I mean, I've used half a barrel of water already, mostly to clean out. I've got other barrels ready to go if I need to swap it over. I just then need to remember to wind it in the opposite direction. So that's that, and then I'm going to come in with, I will be coming back to other colours, but let's start with just Jade. And again, we've already got ink in the lid. It's almost like I've planned it. Not quite, but... right, so this, I want to have when you handle something, it tends to get darker on the edges or more worn on the edges, one or the other. So I want to acknowledge that. So let's start by adding a little bit of water. So what's that looking like? Ooh, quite green. So I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to go all the way. It's just very odd having these funny noises off with hubby doing the cleaning. I have made a discovery that he likes places clean. I mean, you know, don't we all? He's sometimes a little obsessed by it. And if I ignore it long enough, it kind of gets done, because I really don't enjoy cleaning. I mean, I don't think anyone really enjoys, well, no, he does, cleaning. Right, so that's a kind of flat colour. So to get it darker, I'm going to just make sure that so I want the edges to be a bit darker, so I'm going to get this quite wet, because I want it to not be a solid line. So I'm going to add, this is now getting quite wet. You definitely couldn't do this with ordinary paper. And then I'm going to come in with quite a lot of almost pure ink, and the water will do the work for me to a degree, because the water will run with the ink in it. You do need the ink to be reasonably liquid at that point, so not too dried. Nearly there. And then if I bring that up, this is now quite wet. Hopefully you can see that it's just doing the work for me. Thank you, Deborah. You were using Memento. Ah, okay. That'll be why. It is water resistant, but that's not to say it's waterproof. So if we read the back, this is a very old Memento. I don't know if it still says this on the back. So it's acid-free, fade-resistant, water-based, fast-drying. And if you read the blurb, quickly dries on most papers. When dry, stamped impressions are water-resistant. And that really is the key. They are resistant, not proof. And obviously if you reinvigorate the ink, that's going to make it wet again. So I need a bit more colour, which I'll just get from the ink pad, because I want this to be darker. Put my finger in the water, why don't I? So watercolouring is not a quick process. I'm going to have the lines different. So, you know, here we are, nearly past already, and I'm on my first book. It will get quicker, because what I'm trying to do at the moment is instruct and paint, and I will get to the point where I'm just going to paint and do my usual blether. Right, so whilst we're in Just Jade, these are leaves. I was thinking I might have time to do both of these. I don't think I will. So those are leaves, these are leaves. So this really is, so the water painter really does give you a very dry brush. I've said that before, but I will repeat, because I think it's worthy of repetition. So it is much easier to control. Hello, Deborah from Michigan, a different Deborah, but this time from Michigan. Right, so I'm just going to clean this off, i.e. push water through the bristles. Yep. I'm going to leave this for a while because it is quite damp. It's not wet. Hello, Claire. So let's pop that to one side, and I'm going to bring in Misty Moonlight, which I need more ink for. Now, every now and again, you will need to clean your lid because it's going to get gick in it. Just saying, because this is beginning to get gick in it. And just take a piece of kitchen roll and wipe it. So, again, so this time I'm going to go, let's get more water in there. That's better. So I'm going to do this one next. And actually, I'm going to get lots of water in there because I don't want this too dark, so I want it. I'm going to start by popping water into the book or onto the book, depending on how you look at it. And again, we've got a border because we've got this white border around the every chapter book. So I'm not working on colours that are adjacent. I will have to come in here in a moment, but for the moment we're all right. So I can now, because this is very wet, I can just bring in colour and it will do the work for me, particularly as I want it to be dark top and bottom and lighter in the middle. By adding the colour to the top and bottom, because we've got lots of water here, it's doing the job for me. And then I can bring this across, and that's the Just Jade on the leaves is now dry, so I can just pop in the Night of Navy there, and that is that one basically done. So it's doing the work for you, which is what I kind of like. Anything that does the work for me. So I'm going to leave that as a border, but this is going to be Night of Navy. It's not Night of Navy, it's Misty Moonlight. Wrong colour. Now, I think next week, yeah, I've been very naughty on blog posts this week, let it be said. I know. In that I haven't really done any. I'm going to do a colour comparison soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Right, don't want navy, Misty Moonlight for the moment. Don't want Just Jade for the moment. So I'm going to bring in some cinnamon cider. No, don't want to do that, want to do that. And I'm going to have my bottom book, the outside is going to be, by outside I mean frame, as opposed to the friendship word. This is going to be cinnamon cider. So this is really easy. This is just going to be basically solid cinnamon cider. So I'm just painting it as if I was in, probably not kindergarten because I'm being a little bit accurate, but really not going for too much in the way of fine detail. It's just going to be solid colour. Now at some point we do need to think about shadow, and I may need to bring in another colour for that. I may not, but I may. Because grey is not an easy colour to mix. You can mix brown really easily. Brown is basically get as many colours as you want and shove them together, and they're going to end up in a kind of muddy mess. I may be able to get something that's almost grey if I'm careful, because Misty Moonlight is a grey tone, so I might get away with doing a mix. Right, so that's a nice solid-ish frame. And I think while I've got it out, I'm going to do a quick wash on every. The flower is either going to be Bumblebee or Magenta Madness, and I can't decide yet which one. And then this, I'm going to make Magenta Madness, because I can. So let's get that out of the way. Need more ink in that. So good squeeze, and I'll tend to do it from both sides. These aren't as easy to squeeze as our old ink pads. They're not bad, good, but they're not as good. You need your thumbs to be quite strong. So again, so the top of the book is here. So there is actually a gap. So it goes the chapter book frame, and then there's a little bit there. So I'm going to start with what's going to be darkest. And then I'm going to thin it down. So these are just the edges that I want reasonably dark. Then I'm going to add lots of water to the book and let the ink do the work. So I'm being a little bit cautious because we have got other colours and I don't want it to run into the bottom of the book. That might be wishful thinking, however. So really quite a lot of water. The Fluid 100 takes a lot of water to get it wet, which is great, but you need to be bold with your water. And I tend to go back and do it more than once because the first wash will go straight in. And then you have to add more to get it to do the work. So that's made it damp. Now I'm going to get it wet. So I'm going to get it so that it's shiny. Right, so that is now shiny. So this is where the magic happens, because it does the work for you. That be a little darker just there. I need a bit more water. I'm going to have to come in and sort out that corner because it's not doing quite what I want it to do, but we'll get there. So I'm hoping you can see the magic. Now these aren't necessarily colour choices that I would go for as a general rule for this particular stamp set. But I do want to use the retiring colours, and they are very good for showing this sort of run technique. So can you see that it's basically doing the work for me? So it's faded nicely. So let's clean that off a little bit and just come in and do my fleur. Bit more ink. Right, and I think I'm going to go back to Bumblebee for Friendship. Now, pink is always an interesting shade to get out of anything. It's very good at staining, so it doesn't surprise me that the bristles of my brush are now pink. Although the water is running reasonably clear. So, the middle of Friendship is going to be, right, I'm going to need a bit more ink from that. Right, so there's another way of getting ink. Let's pop that out of the way. So if you've already got a lot of water in your lid, you can just pick some up, pick some ink up with your block and work from that instead. You're all being terribly quiet, which I know means you're probably just watching, but it's slightly alarming that there's no comments at all. I'm told there's an excellent stream because my laptop is telling me that. And there's no real logic between whether I'm going to the block or the ink lid. Although getting rid of some of the liquid in the lid is a bonus. Right, so we've got to do the outside of every chapter and the bookmark. So I think I am going to do the outside of every chapter in Bumblebee, but I need it as a more solid, I don't know why I'm emptying out my brush like that. Right, so I need more ink. Oh, and I need to do the I Enjoy as well. Now when you're doing small areas like this that are narrow and you know you need to just be careful, still here just absorb, that's fine. It's fine, it's just it is slightly alarming when suddenly there's no comments at all, and I do understand, it's just it is slightly alarming. I'm not sure that yellow was the right choice for this, but this is more an exercise in colouring rather than colour. So I am keeping my brush really quite dry so that I lessen the risk of cross-fertilisation. So we need centre to our flower. So the only other thing I need is the bookmark, and I want that in Misty Moonlight. And then I'm going to attempt something greyish. I know. Right, Misty Moonlight. But I just need some shadow. And Misty Moonlight is going to be definitely key to making something greyish. So let's clean that block. In fact, let's clean that block and get a bigger block. So this is a D block. So I'm going to grab some Misty Moonlight. I don't need much of a shadow, I just need something at the bottom here because books don't float in midair. So that's my Misty Moonlight. And I'm thinking if I take a teeny little bit of brown. Yes! Let's see what that looks like. Yes! That's where we want it. So it is muddy, but it's a greyish muddy. So I need this area to be shadow. Oop. So this is Cinnamon Cider and Misty Moonlight mixed together so that our books are not floating in mid-air. And I'm thinking that the light's coming from over there. So our shadow is going to be coming off the page. And I'll just give it a bounce. So that's what we've ended up with. Restocking my craft room, having had some shelves put up. Oh, Nora's restocking. So I'm actually going to bring this down off the edge of the page. Like that. Reasonably happy with that. That was a mistake. Right, so let's see if I can rectify my mistake a bit. So I want this to be less. Need more water. So I need to wind it the wrong way. It's got a reasonable amount of water. And wrong way. Brain just doesn't want to do it the wrong way. It's just, we're so ingrained in doing things one way, doing them the other way is just not happening. Right, so I want to remove some of that. Not going to get rid of all of it, but I can certainly soften it because it's watercolour paper. So you can add that's better. Once that's dry, that's going to be a lot better. So we need to make a card. Right, I have got my in colour card ready to go. Ooh, let's get rid of the Magenta Madness because that is just, yeah, it's just Magenta Madness really. I'm thinking Misty Moonlight as my first mat, and we'll then go from there. So this is, I think, 3.5 by 5. Yep. So I'm going to cut this slightly bigger. So I'm going to go, I think I'm going to go 5 1/4, so it's going to be 5 1/4 by 3 3/4. So I've been guided with this by the size of the watercolour paper. Well, I could trim it down a bit, but I don't think I will. So that is so much better than Magenta Madness, just saying. Let me show you what it would look like on Magenta Madness. So it is a totally different card just by putting it on a different card base. So I'm going to go, I think I'm going to go Magenta Madness and Bumblebee. No, I'm not. I'm going to go Misty Moonlight and Bumblebee. Methinks. Yes. So I need to score this because it isn't. I've got to check that it is actually half a sheet as well, which it is. So score. Bone folder. Now I like liquid glue for watercolour paper. Just bought my first water brushes. Do you fill them with in compartment further? Do you fill them in compartment furthest from the brush? Right, so to fill them, you unscrew them the wrong way, and you fill this, so you fill the barrel, but the water's just going to be where the water's going to be. So so at this point the water is down here. When you turn it to use it, it's going to run down towards the tip, and on the side it's got where you push to get the water to run into the tip of the brush, so you can hopefully see drops coming off. Bringing too far up, it goes out very badly out of focus. Does that make sense? Oh, that's not a very well folded card, but never mind. So I'm going to trim a very, very, very small bit off the bottom of that, because that is just too big. That's better. I didn't fold it in half. I folded it in half plus a bit. Right, so, as I say, liquid adhesive, because it's quite absorbent. It's also quite textured, so something like Seal or Seal Plus would work, but you could end up with it pulling this texture off. Tear and tape would work, but for this I definitely like copious quantities of the liquid adhesive. And give it a good press, and oops, and squish it so that it's, you know, not straight at all. I was trying to do it from the back to avoid moving it. That's better. Let's try again. That's better. That's betterer. This pot of glue is coming to the end of its days. Let's not stick it on upside down, eh? Now, because this is not in proportion to the card base, I'm going to have the bigger bit at the bottom. Think Polaroid camera, and that has the bigger bit at the bottom. So our brains are kind of used to that. And then, yes, I would put a liner in, because even on Bumblebee, that's not going to be very easy to write on. So there you are, one whole card. It only took me 50 minutes. Looks very 3D. Thank you. I love this stamp. I'm very upset that it's not going to be in the annual catalogue. It is one of my favourite stamps from this catalogue. But hey, if you want... Oh, I missed those bits. Never mind. I'll fill them in a bit. In fact, what you can do... Here's a cheat for you. So I'm going to do those with Misty Moonlight. I mean, using Stampin' Write markers on watercolour paper is not great, because that's not really what they're built for, but if you do ever miss a bit out, just saying. Thank you. Anyway, so there we go. I'll flip the camera up so I can be polite and say goodbye properly, as my mother would say. So, face, there I am. Stand up a bit. I'll try and adjust it so it's further across for next Tuesday, because I will be back on Tuesday. We've got a bank holiday tomorrow and on Monday in the UK, certainly. I don't know about whether we have on in Europe. Thank you, Pam. I'm glad you like it. So, thank you very much indeed for watching. Always, if you've enjoyed it, thumbs up would be lovely. So I'll be back on Tuesday. I'm hoping that I will get some blog posts done. I've got to record Simple Stamping Saturday. And I'm also going to do a colour comparison between the new in colours and the current colours and a few of the historic colours. I can't go right the way back because I've only been a demonstrator for coming up 6 years. But I will do my best. For example, I don't have strawberry slush, just saying. So have a fantastic rest of your day. Have a very, very happy Easter. Don't eat too much chocolate, says the I can't eat chocolate at all person. If you've got any questions and you're watching on replay, do ask those in the comments below the description bar, and I will get back to you. Otherwise, have a fantastic weekend, and I will look forward to seeing you again, hopefully, on Tuesday. So until then, farewell. Oh, didn't didn't click properly. Bye bye.